You're listening to PetLifeRadio.com.
Teacher's Pet is brought to you by Dog.com. For everything and anything dog, shop Dog.com today for all the top brands. Greenies, Frontline, Kong, Nylabone, Royal Canin, and more. Shop at Dog.com and use the promo code SADTEACH, SADTEACH, and get $15 off your order of $75 or more.
Okay, class, take your seats. I said take your seats. Class, sit. I swear you're all acting like a bunch of animals. Pet Life Radio presents Teacher's Pet, where you'll learn how to understand and communicate with your pet and train them to be the best pet they can be. It's time to see the world from your pet's point of view. So give a tail-wagging welcome to your Teacher's Pet host on PetLifeRadio.com. You may even learn a few tricks yourself.
Hi, and welcome to Teacher's Pet. I'm Nan Toleno on Pet Life Radio. Today, we have a very special guest with us. He is the nationally recognized Iditarod musher, a world record holder in the Iditarod since 2002, world record holder, 4-time champ, and he's also owner of Happy Trails Kennel, and he's the recipient of the Leonhard Seppala Humanitarian Award for Best Dog Care. We're going to learn a lot of information today and find out his daily adventures. Coming up next, Mr. Martin Buser is with us. Keep it right here. Be back after a short break on Teacher's Pet on Pet Life Radio.
Okay, class, grab your tuna flakes, biscuits, and bones. Teacher's Pet will be back in 2 shakes of a tail, right after recess.
We really love pets. There isn't anything we won't do to make sure they're getting the best products and the best care. So when you ask us a question like,
so how do you feel about cat condos?
We can say from experience,
feels like home for her.
Enter the code TEACHER10, teacher, the number 10, and get 10% off any order. No minimum at Petco.com.
Celebrate your special occasion and give her this classic semi-eternity band created with 1-carat brilliant diamonds, channel set in 14-carat white gold. Exclusively yours from ice.com. Free shipping over $150, free returns, and 30-day money-back guarantee.
Go to ice.com and use promo code ACTFP and get 20% off your purchase, or use promo code ADTFP and get 20% off at diamond.com, ice.com, or diamond.com. Get 20% off from Pet Life Radio.
There's a movement afoot, ShoeBuy.com. Join the millions of people who shop ShoeBuy.com's over 400 brands and 500,000 products. Order now and get free shipping and free return shipping. ShoeBuy.com, the world's greatest shoe store.
Walk your dog in style and comfort. Enter the code TEACHERS, TEACHERS, at checkout and get a 10% discount plus free shipping at ShoeBuy.com.
This year, Americans are expected to spend a jaw-dropping $36 billion on their pets. From lighted leashes to high-end spa products, the discriminating pet owner can find just about anything to pamper his or her pet. Hi, this is Michelle Fern. Join me every week for Best Bets for Pets, where we'll talk about the latest pet products and talk to the companies that make them. Best Bets for Pets, every week, only on PetLifeRadio.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Okay, class, hang up your collars and leashes. Teacher's Pet is back in session. Now park yourselves on the floor. I said park, not bark. Ugh. Okay, Teacher's Pet. Pay attention, there may be a quiz later.
Hi, and welcome back to Teacher's Pet. I'm Nan Toleno on Pet Life Radio, and I am joined with nationally recognized Iditarod musher and the world record holder in the Iditarod since 2002, I believe. We have Mr. Martin Buser. It's a pleasure to speak with you, Martin.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
So tell us about your exciting life, your wonderful adventures, and what it's like, what a day in the life of Martin and his wondrous dogs would be like in the Iditarod Trail.
Well, there's no day that has not gone to the dogs in my life, which is a good thing. I'm one of those fortunate people that can actually do what they love doing for a living, and that's playing with their dogs. So since every day is different in Alaska, of course, there's no routine. Summertime is filled with playing with the dogs off-leash, 20, 30, sometimes 40 at a time, just taking them for long walks. And then in the fall time, we'll train the dogs on what we call four-wheelers, those little ATV vehicles. And then once the snow comes, we start training the dogs in front of a sled, and the mileage is ever increasing. So there's no routine day, just like a rancher or a farmer.
But it's such, I saw on your website, the dogs, they're absolutely gorgeous. How many do you have, and how long have you been doing this?
I have been doing dogs one way or another for well over 30 years now.
Wow.
Currently, I have about 90 dogs. That's counting the geriatrics and the young ones and the up-and-coming stars, and it always fluctuates between about 70 and 90. I'm comfortable with that many dogs because between me and my staff, we can provide the best we can for those dogs, and that means, daily attention to every individual.
Now, you also teach as well. Is that correct?
Well, I always have a couple of apprentices here that learn the tricks of the trade and how to take care of the dogs, and often do races. They'll go with me to races, do their own participating in races. In fact, that's what we're doing right now. This is the beginning of the racing season, so we're getting ready for a couple of up-and-coming races. Oh,
okay, so this is the season now. When is the next race?
Well, the next race is in about 10 days. It's a very intense 300-mile race called the Cusco 300. And what's kind of interesting about that race is we have to fly to it. It's so remote that we pack up the dogs, the sleds, the food, the straw, the bedding, everything we have, and we actually fly, and then we go run 300 miles, and then we fly back home.
And it's got to be an amazing sight because you're talking about all of your dogs? I mean, how many do you take with you?
On that trip, we'll take the race. Various races have different limits on how many dogs you can run. That race has a 14-dog limit. That means we're going to take 28 dogs and all their care issues.
How old are the dogs? I mean, how old do they need to be to race?
To race competitively, I want them to be at least 2.5 years old. And that's where my apprentices, where my helpers, or we call them handlers, come in. We often let them go on the Iditarod, actually, with the young dogs. It's sort of like the college kids get to play their sports, but they're not quite professionals yet. But they need to do it in order to gain the experience. And that's what we call the yearling team. Young dogs will go to Nome relaxed with a much more restful pattern than the adult dogs. And then we call them graduates, and at a 2.5-year-old age, I take them for the first time in a competitive team. And then they run 6, 7, 8, sometimes 9 Iditarods in a row. And usually at 10 years old, I find I call it a retirement home for them, because they will have missed a step or two, and they can't keep up with the ultra competitive dogs anymore.
They must enjoy that amazing lifestyle, so they can actually race until 10. They must really. It's probably something that makes them proud as much as it makes you proud, because it sounds like it's a team effort, and dogs love to bond, and that brings me to another thought. You have actually created this amazing bond between yourself and the animals among each other. Do you have any tips or advice for people, with their animals? Obviously you live an amazing lifestyle, very adventurous, but for the average everyday person, what tips would you say, what techniques would you say to create this amazing bond with their dog as you have with yours?
It's very much like raising kids, of course. The most important thing is time, spending time with your animals. And then often I talk to pet owners, and, they say, well, my dog does this and that. And I say, well, you should have 2. Having one dog is actually more work than having 2 dogs. One of the main reasons is that most people have to work for a living. And if you have 2 dogs, they keep each other company while you're earning their living. meaning you go to work and you make an income, and then you have nice money for toys and treats, and when you come home, now you have quality time because all day long the dogs spent with each other, burning off some of that energy that if you only have one dog, now they need to burn that off before you can get to their mind, their psyche, to their attention span, because you need to take them for a long walk and burn off some of that energy that the dogs just need to burn off in order to be reached. Now you can interact with them and train them and teach them things.
Now, are they always together, all the dogs?
They live together. I have different ways of keeping them. In fact, you're calling me from, I'm in what I call the dog barn. I only have 2 in here with me right now, but I have a barn, I call it the fun house, where I can sleep with my 64 dogs.
Ah, that must be amazing. That must be amazing. Right? I could only imagine.
It's a little smelly sometimes.
But that sounds like the life, just to be surrounded by them in peace and harmony and a lot of balance, it sounds like. And it seems like everybody's fulfilled, mostly the dogs. And to be the leader of all that, it must be an amazing thrill, not to mention the race itself and the honors that go with it and the excitement, but just your connection with so many dogs and to see them at total peace and balance, and that they're fulfilled that way. I just think that in itself is an amazing adventure.
Good observation. And I tell people that, my dogs really don't know that I'm not one of them. They don't know that I don't have 4 legs, because they function like maybe a 5 or 6 year old. And they're infatuated with me as much as I am with them, because they can do things that just no human being can do. Run 50, 60, 70 miles, take a couple of naps, and do it again. Day in, day out is fabulous. But then on the other hand, of course, I can materialize, quote unquote, I can bring food and water and love and attention and order and exercise and free running and all that. And so from their point of view, I'm a pretty special dog too. So we have a pretty good symbiotic relationship. We get along pretty good that way.
Now, their training, is that all together, or do you have to train them individually?
Rarely. I do have treadmills that I work the dogs on. When I do speed workouts, I sometimes work the dogs individually, but most of the time we do anywhere from 12 to 24 dogs with a training bout at the same time.
Okay. And you also own Happy Trails Kennel, right? And now this is where everything takes place, right? All this excitement is you're at the hub there. How long have you owned that kennel?
From people from the real world would maybe call it a homestead, or a very. We're not remote enough, I think, but we're very remote in most people's opinion. In fact, I can go from my house out the back door and not hit a road for over 1,000 miles.
Wow!
So that's pretty good. We have a kennel in which we house the dogs, of course, and in the summertime we give tours where people can come and see the ins and outs of the dog mushing world. And that's becoming an ever bigger business, where people come and, take tours, and they get to pet the dogs, and sometimes I take them out for runs with the dogs, and all that stuff is described in our website. So I think what's most exciting is that, like we started out, no day is ever the same, because no dog is the same, and every day of their lives and every day of my life is different.
It's certainly different for you, but it's fascinating to us, and we're going to be talking more with the fascinating life of Mr. Martin Bucer coming up next on Teacher's Pet on Pet Life Radio. Keep it right here.
Okay, class, grab your tuna flakes, biscuits, and bones. Teacher's Pet will be back in 2 shakes of a tail right after recess.
Love your pets but wish their medications were a lot less expensive? They are at 1-800-PET-MEDS. You'll not only save on flea and heartworm medications, but on prescriptions for arthritis, incontinence, thyroid, and more. And you get fast service, free shipping, and a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Plus, our licensed pharmacists ensure accuracy, monitor drug interaction, and more. See why over 5 million people have trusted their pet's health to 1-800-PET-MEDS, America's largest pet pharmacy. Call now or order online.
Go to petmeds.com/teacher to get 10% off any order and free shipping on orders of $39 or more at petmeds.com.
FTD's network of over 40,000 florists around the world have been creating beautiful handcrafted arrangements for 100 years. Each arrangement is delivered the same day and backed by FTD's 7-day satisfaction guarantee. For a century, people have trusted their most important occasions to the flower experts at FTD.
Since Pet Life Radio is all about puppy dogs and flowers, our listeners, that's you, can get a 20% discount on your order. Just go to fluorop.com and use the code TEACHER1 at checkout. FLEUROP.com, code word TEACHER and the number 1. You ask the question, what do I want? What do I need? I'll take affection. I really should mention I need time. I need love. I crave attention. This is me waiting by the door with shaking tails and happy hearts and running circles round the floor. That's always when the party starts for me. They are my friends. They are my children. They are the furry scooters and kids. They are my family. They understand me. That's how I love my pets.
I Love My Pets, the new single by Mark Winter, available on iTunes.
Hi, this is Tim Link, host of Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. Join me as we feature interviews with best-selling pet-related authors, award-winning writers, journalists, and bloggers. And we'll tell stories about the animals and interesting topics about the animals in our lives. Each of the interviews will give you a first-hand knowledge about why the authors and writers chose a particular story, what the feature animals meant to them, and what has become of those animals that we've talked about. And of course, I'll also share stories from my own books, blogs, articles, and experiences. So be sure to join me and the writers and authors on Animal Rights.
Every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Okay, class, hang up your collars and leashes. Teacher's Pet is back in session. Now park yourselves on the floor. I said park, not bark. Ugh. Okay, Teacher's Pet. Pay attention, there may be a quiz later.
Hi, and welcome back to Teacher's Pet on Pet Life Radio. We are talking with Martin Busser, Iditarod champ. Martin, you had won this world record. You were the world record holder for how many years now?
The most recent world record I set in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And that is still the standing speed record for the Iditarod. That was sort of a watershed event, and the first time the race had ever been done in under 9 days.
Wow.
Keep in mind that the early champions took over 20 days to win that race. So the Roger Bannister 4-minute mile, the Iditarod will, from now on, the records will always be the 8 days, and our dogs have the first race that they did in 8 days, and that's a great honor. But an even bigger honor was that during that race I became a naturalized citizen. And the story goes that I was Alaskan through and through. I was born and raised in Switzerland. In 1979 I came to Alaska, and then I became a quote-unquote famous Alaskan. But on paper I was still Swiss. The tragedy of 9/11 prompted me to not only prove to myself but to my children, they were 12 and 14 at the time, my boys, that this is the soil I wanted to defend. And that became, long story short, we started the swearing-in ceremony at the beginning of the race in the starting area, and I carried my paperwork all the way to Nome, where the judge swore me in under the Burled Arch at the finish of the race. So I now have 2 world records. One is the fastest Iditarod, and the other one is the longest and slowest swearing-in ceremony for naturalization.
Wow, that's amazing. You must be very proud. It's not your everyday life. You know, you've accomplished so much. And the amazing part about that is that you join forces with dogs, you know, to combine the love of the sport and the love of these animals, and to have them join you in this amazing feat is spectacular. So it is an amazing adventure. You also are the recipient of the Leonhard, am I saying this correctly, Seppala Humanitarian Award, right, for best dog care?
Leonhard Seppala was a famous dog musher during the turn of the century, mostly then in the 1910s and 1920s. The Iditarod has a special award given to the person that we call exercises the best possible dog care during the race. And yeah, my dogs and I have received that as many times as we have won the race, which is unprecedented in Iditarod history. That I have won it 4 times, and one time I got it while I won at the same time. And
wow!
It's actually a scoring system, a point system that up to 50 veterinarians that monitor the dogs and make sure everything is safe and sound. They assess not only the dogs at the finish line, but throughout the race in every what we call checkpoint. Those might be villages or little stopover places. In every one of those checkpoints, there's between 3 and 5 veterinarians monitoring the dogs, observing the dog care. Does he feed the dogs? Does he massage the dogs? Do they get bedded down on straw? Do they get blankets? Do they eat? Do they drink? Blah, blah, blah. Lots of little chores we do when the dogs are actually not running. And so all that gets scored with a point system, and then the highest recipient receives a very special honor, almost as important as, or from the dog's point of view, probably more important than winning the race.
I can certainly see why, and that's a testimony to you that the dogs are in such good hands and take such good care. Speaking of which, I was wondering if you could maybe give us some tips on nutrition for dogs with active lifestyles.
Well, nutrition, of course, is key to longevity, health, and happiness, and not just for active dogs, but for dogs that of all walks of life. And we are, one of my major sponsors is Eagle Super Premium Pet Food, and they make what I call the fuel for the Daytona cars. You know, not everybody has a fast racing car, but to make the fuel for the supercharged animals, then you also know how to tone it down for the sedentary 13-year-old wiener dog, of which I have one sitting right behind me. I mean, he's curled up and he's slender, he's trim, he's getting all gray, but he's 13 and he's in perfect health. And that only comes with exercise and the proper diet. That is so important. You know, people love to give the dogs unpredictable treats and scraps and this and that just because they think they're very humane, whereas the scientists of the dog food companies, they spent their entire lives and careers of formulating those diets to benefit the animals. And so it's wise to use a super diet. And of course, in our line of work, Eagle Pack natural pet food includes all not just the 4 meat bases, you know, fish, poultry, lamb and beef, but also lots of minerals, vitamins, chondroitin sulfate, and all the tiny little micro ingredients that is needed for a very, very competitive athlete.
Obviously, that's primary. So to do their research into finding those kinds of foods, or would you recommend certain ones, or?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. Being sponsored by Eagle for the Championship Club, which means they have been one of my sponsors for over 25 years, almost 30 years now.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, so that's definitely a brand that everyone should check out because obviously it's doing right by your dogs, right? And the name again, Martin?
The name is Eagle Pack Dog Food, and that's a specially formulated diet for active dogs. But they make the life stages food too. They make all kinds of, like I said, they make the little old geriatric diet as well.
Yeah, and your 13-year-old is living proof, right?
Oh yeah, he's good. And, you know, just for an aside, in my career over 30 years now, I have seen the life expectancy of our dogs, the sled dogs, from 12 to 14, certainly rise to 16, 17, occasionally an 18-year-old will be kicking around. And that's, of course, good food, good training, and good attention, good love, and all that.
And also, tell us about your DVD, For the Love of Dogs. It's available on your website. Am I right?
Absolutely. I actually have 2 DVDs. For the Love of Dogs, so that describes my lifestyle and philosophy. Mostly summer shots. It has some winter footage in it where you see the dogs running in super slow motion down the trail, tongues hanging out, and gorgeous sunsets on the trail. Really, really nice. But mostly about the summer, free running, puppy raising, and a bit of my philosophy. And then the other DVD is a mile by mile. We call it Mile by Mile on the Iditarod Trail. It doesn't take you guys 10 days to watch it. It's just I think it's a 40-minute video, but it gives people a good idea of what the Iditarod Trail looks like and the challenges on the trail and the diversity of the situation. You know, you obviously can't go 1,000 miles without going into different geographic patterns and culture patterns and temperature patterns and all that. So you'll see 63 below and 20 above and all that stuff in between.
Wow. And so one is called For the Love of Dogs, and what's the other one called?
And the other one we simply call Mile by Mile.
Mile by Mile. And these are both available on boosterdog.com, right? Your website, which
Correct,
is
yes.
BUSERDOG.com, right?
Correct, yeah. Mm-hmm. You go to the website, you see all my friends, and my wife, Kathy, is a great updater of the website, and she keeps, especially this time of the year when things happen every day, we have something going on all the time, so she now keeps it up diligently with updates and happenings. And now, of course, after 50-some years, I need to have my own Facebook as well. So now we're starting to work on the Facebook page.
That's good. That's good. And the pictures are gorgeous of these dogs, too. You have a great site, so people should check that out. It's really nice. So what's up next for you, Martin? What's happening now and what's in store for the future? I know you said you have a race coming up, so tell us what's going to be happening in the near future for you and your dogs.
I'm getting ready to go on a 70-mile run. That's at least 3 teams, my helpers and I, we're going to go on a 70-mile run, and we have to check temperature. If it's really cold, we tend to go relatively slow, meaning 10 or 11 miles an hour. We don't want the dogs to get frostbite. The trails are hard and fast right now. That 70-mile run will take us about 7 hours, including stops. We average about 10 miles an hour. About halfway out there on the run, we'll give the dogs some special soup. We'll give them some food, and then they will continue running. And then in the evening, we'll probably bring them in the dog barn, and let them sleep inside where they can build muscle and recoup really quick. They're getting in such good shape right now that they'll come back after want their dinner, want to go to sleep, and then in a few hours they would want to do it.
Well, they have the life with the exercise, nutrition, the care, the bonding. I'll tell you, got to start giving classes on just that alone, just because it's so motivational and inspirational. So, I mean, you really are enjoying a wonderful life in harmony with your animals. I just commend you so much, aside from all the progress and the feats that you're doing in the sport as well. But just to connect one-to-one with your animals is amazing. And it's very inspirational for a lot of people. So I'm glad that we had this chance to speak with you today. Well, thank you, Martin. I hope everybody goes to your website, which is www.boosterdog.com. And we thank you so much for joining us today, Martin. Was there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I appreciate you calling. Thank you very much. It was fun, and maybe I could share some tidbits, and if not, people, like you say, can see the website and maybe learn even more.
Well, I'd love to speak with you again in the future. How's that? Will you come back on the show?
You've got my number.
Thanks, Martin Booster. It was a pleasure talking with you today and sharing your adventures with us. And thank you for all the great information. I'm Nancy Tolino. Remember, find ways to create peace and harmony in your life for you and your pets. Until next time, thanks for listening to Teacher's Pet on Pet Life Radio.
School's in session on Pet Life Radio with Teacher's Pet. Learn how to communicate with your pet, train your pet, and see the world from your pet's point of view. You may even learn a few tricks yourself. Teacher's Pet, only on PetLifeRadio.com.